Okay, so for the final, the way it used to be is you would turn in a large group of items at the very end. And what we've done is we've kind of broken up the final. So for instance, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, this is the software training program Word document that I have pulled up. And in that software training program, there are 16 elements required to be documented. And I've underlined them, bold underline, in the exercise A. Then as we trail this, there are different sections, for instance, project scope management, and it says create a WBS, milestone, blah, blah, blah. It has different information here and the specific tasks for the project. Now, as I take a look at the first tab in my Excel spreadsheet, it talks about point allocation. In that point allocation, that means throughout the entire project, you are going to document these 16 elements. So you're going to show me where these 16 elements are. I should be able to go, oh, okay, on page whatever, there should be some mention of 50,000 employees, and you have an index that basically tells me what page those items are located on. And that represents a multiplier. So if you only get 8 out of the 16 items shown or documented, that means whatever your score is, it's multiplied by 50%. So obviously, if I was putting this together, I would have all these listed out with the exact page numbers of where they were at in your overall project. So that's the first thing that you have to worry about, these 16 elements. Secondly, people are asking me about the first week's turn-in. Now, the very first week, or the Unit 2 turn-in is Section 1, which is Project Scope Management, which has milestone, summary tasks, and specific tasks A through I. Excuse me for a minute. Sorry about that. I thought I was going to sneeze. So at any rate, it has those specific tasks. Now, if I take a look at my first project scope management, you'll notice that the first section matches this first section in the Word document that details what it's going to be. It's worth 55 points. And this is stuff that's due in Unit 2, by the way. And so what happens is I expect milestones, summary tasks, and specific tasks A through I. So if I look here, it says create a WBS and has a 1 next to it for the project and enter task in Project 2007 or show evidence of identical format content. Create milestones 2 and summary tasks deliverables. Look to the worker breakdown structure to see a breakdown example. And here's tasks A through I. So you have to have a demonstration of all these. Don't make me search for these. Tell me where these are at. Actually break it down so I know exactly where those are. Now you might go, well, I don't know what a WBS1 looks like. Now if I go over to my rubric and I expand this out and I look at the bottom of the page, it says, number 1, WBS Chapter 5, Slide 22. So in addition to WBS Chapter 5, Slide 22, you can look it up in the Chapter 5 section on Slide 22. I can also click on this right here, and it will give me a complete breakdown of the graphical elements that represent this particular item. You'll notice that as I look at these, it has the actual table and has a graphical representation. So if I go back over here and it looks at Create Milestones 2, if I look at my Milestones tab over here, it gives me an example of the way it's supposed to look, as well as a chapter, right? And the actual, Chapter 3, Slide 25. So where I can actually locate the definition of what that is. So to recap, I have here's my document that explains everything that I have to do. And it talks about, A through I. And it also brings about these deliverables that allow me to reference in the Excel spreadsheet. I'll do another chapter so you kind of see. So for the third unit, if I look at point allocation, it says for the third unit, Unit 3, I have Section 2, Project Time Management, Specific Tasks A through C. So I go to my Section 2. It lists Project A through C, so I have to give evidence of that. If I look at number 3, Gantt chart, I actually come down here to my Excel spreadsheet and I look at number 3 for my Gantt chart, which is right here, and this gives me an example of what it might look like and the data it contains. It also tells me to where look for an explanation, Chapter 1, Slide 42. So also if I was looking at network diagram, There's my network diagram, kind of the way it looks, what the slide is. So chapter 1, slide 43. So these are all kind of broken down. Additionally, at the bottom of each unit, final section 1 rough draft, meaning that I want you to start kind of working on section 1 and giving me an idea what you're going to do this week so I can kind of give you some advice based on what you turn in. Then on unit 2, as I go down to the bottom, final section 1 project scope management. So once again, the second unit or the second week, section 1 project scope management is due. And if I go to my Word document, this is all that's due, and this is why I gave you 2 weeks for it, for the project scope management. Create a WBS, number 1, so I can look at my Excel spreadsheet where it has the point allocation. I can see what I'm supposed to be, how much it's worth, what I'm supposed to be doing. I can go to slides that give me example, as well as images that are example of what I'm looking for. You don't necessarily have to follow this format, but I do need this information. So once again, for number 2, milestones, I go to my Excel spreadsheet. Oh, number 2, milestones. This is what the milestones might look like. Chapter 3, slide 25. Okay? Now, in addition to this, I have a file structure. And the way the file structure is put together is, as you turned in these zip folders, here's the intro file, documentation, training, items, location, page numbers. So now in the intro folder, this is telling me what's going on there. In the part 1 folder, documentation of project scope management, items, location, page numbers, PDFs as needed. And the idea is you want to make it painfully obvious where those requirements are, because if you let me dig for them and I don't find them, you don't get credit for them, and that's bad. So you want to make sure it's painfully obvious and clear where the items are, because I have to go through everybody's. And what used to happen is this particular project was due at the very end of the class, and obviously teachers could not spend as much time as they wanted with it. Plus, I can kind of, since we're turning it in on a section-by-section basis as we go, so that will allow me to kind of give you feedback and also see what you've done. So for instance, here, part 2 folder, documentation, items, location, PDFs, demonstration. So if I looked in your project 2 folder, I should be able to clearly, or the part 2 folder, I should be able to clearly see project time management, A through C, these different deliverables, and everything that's there as it's indicated here, and it goes all the way through down to part 5. So I hope that gives you more of an idea of the way this works. I know it kind of maybe seemed a little bit confusing, and that's why I wanted to walk you through the different elements so you can see what was going on. If you have questions, concerns, or whatever, feel free to talk to me. Thank you very much for your time.